I've always believed that hard work pays off. After landing a senior marketing position at one of Atlanta's top firms last year, I finally moved into Briarstone Estates, a gated community with homes that had actual front yards and tree-lined streets. As a 34-year-old black man who grew up in a cramped apartment with my mom and 3 siblings, owning a 4-bedroom colonial on Millstone Drive felt like I had finally achieved my slice of the American dream. The neighborhood had tennis courts, a community pool, and streets so pristine you could mistake them for showroom floors. But what it also had, I soon learned, was Marian Kessler, treasurer of the Briarstone Estates Homeowners Association, and the thorn in my side. 3 days after I moved in, Marianne showed up on my porch. She held a welcome basket containing the HOA rulebook with multiple highlighted sections, a flyer on community aesthetic standards, and exactly 2 rock-hard cookies. While she handed them over, she peered past me into my house as if expecting to find contraband or chaos. Her smile was tight as she warned me about lawn maintenance expectations and reminded me that neighborhood standards had to be upheld. The way she emphasized our standards and glanced disapprovingly at my black BMW said everything. "I'm Elijah Brooks," I said, offering my hand. "Yes, well?" she replied, brushing my fingers. "I'm Marian Kessler, HOA treasurer. Our meetings are held the first Tuesday of every month. Attendance is encouraged." She turned sharply and walked off, her beige pumps clacking down my driveway. Over the next 6 months, I got 4 notices about my lawn being a half-inch too tall, a warning about a dinner party that went past 9 p.m., and a formal complaint because my trash bin remained on the curb until 7 p.m. instead of the mandatory 5 p.m. removal. Meanwhile, her friend down the street had tacky Christmas lights still up in March without a word from the HOA. Still, I kept my composure. I followed every rule. I even joined the neighborhood watch, thinking participation would show good faith. But Marianne scrutinized me like I was an uninvited guest in my own neighborhood. Then came the Tuesday that changed everything. During lunch at work, I was checking my credit card statement when I saw a charge that made me choke on my sandwich. $3,450 to Elite Auto Rentals. I hadn't rented anything recently, let alone a vehicle worth that much. I called my credit card company. "Yes, Mr. Brooks," the representative said. "That charge was made 4 days ago for a red Corvette Stingray, rented for 2 weeks. It was signed for by," she paused, "a Marian Kessler. She was listed as an authorized user." I felt the heat rise in my chest. "I never authorized anyone by that name," I said, my tone calm despite the storm inside. The rep immediately flagged the charge and began an investigation. She told me the rental was active and the car had been picked up at Elite Auto Rentals, 5 miles from Briarstone Estates. I left work early and drove to the rental office. The manager, a balding man named Seth with a Falcons tie, was reluctant to share info. "Look," I said, showing ID. "That's my card." "She committed fraud." Seth frowned, pulled up the file. "She said she was your sister. You authorized her. Signature here." He showed me a form with my name. Forged. "Does she look like she could be my sister?" I asked. He looked sheepish. "We can track the car. GPS shows it's at 1664 Briarstone Lane. Marianne's house." I went home, put on my best Tom Ford suit, and called my friend Carter, a detective with Atlanta PD. He agreed to stand by as a witness unofficially. "Don't do anything rash, record everything." At 5:30 p.m., prime neighbor watching hour, I parked across from Marianne's colonial. The Corvette sat in her driveway, bold and smug. I activated the voice recorder on my phone. "Georgia's a one-party consent state." "Good." I rang her doorbell, which chimed a Mozart melody. She opened the door in a red Adidas tracksuit, startled to see me. "Mr. Brooks," she said. "The HOA Dropbox is at the clubhouse. I think we need to talk about the red Corvette you rented with my card," I said. Her face shifted rapidly, surprise, panic, denial, outrage. "That's absurd. How dare you?" "I have proof." I held up printouts of my statement and the signed rental agreement. Neighbors were now lingering nearby. Marianne noticed. "Come inside," she hissed. "I'm fine right here," I said. "Unless you want to explain this fraud in public." She yanked me inside. Her living room was beige on beige, walls plastered with charity photos that screamed, "Look, I'm not racist." "You don't understand," she started. "No, you don't." The rental company has you on camera. My bank flagged the charge. A detective is aware. She sneered. It's your word against mine. I know people. The city council. It's 2024, Marianne. There are cameras, receipts, digital fingerprints. I haven't committed a crime. You have. You people always play the victim, she snapped. Do you know how hard I work to maintain standards in a place like this? You mean black homeowners who don't look like your idea of community? Get out or I'm calling the police. Go ahead, I said. Let's tell them about the stolen Corvette. She dialed 911. There's a black man threatening me on my property. I stepped outside and waited by the Corvette. Neighbors gathered. Carter gave me a nod from his car down the street. Marianne emerged, phone pressed to her ear, loudly claiming fear and threat. Is he armed? The dispatcher asked. Marianne hesitated. No. Has he threatened you? He's accusing me of theft. The crowd was filming. I smiled politely. Mrs. Langston, a neighbor I knew from the pool, approached. Elijah Brooks, I said, shaking her hand. This woman used my credit card to rent this car. She looked between us. Is that true, Marianne? Marianne shrieked. He's lying. This is why we need to screen who moves in here. What do you mean by that? Mrs. Langston asked sharply. 2 police cruisers pulled up. One officer, white with gray hair, and the other black, looked exhausted by the scene. Marianne ran to them. Officers. He's harassing me. The white officer turned to me. I'm Officer Grant. This is Officer Riley. Elijah Brooks, I said. She used my credit card. I have proof. She invited me in, then called 911 when I confronted her. He's lying. I paid for the rental. With my card and a forged signature. Ma'am, did you invite him inside? Yes. But then I asked him to leave. I have our conversation recorded, I added. That's illegal. Marianne snapped. Georgia law permits one-party consent, Officer Riley replied. I pulled out my phone. Want to hear her call me you people and complain about anyone moving in? Marianne paled. You're twisting my words. I'd like to file a report for fraud and identity theft, I told the officers. Here's the documentation. The crowd murmured. Marianne sputtered. We had an arrangement. He let me use the card. Now it's an arrangement? Officer Grant asked. You've given 3 different stories. I'd advise you to remain silent. As they questioned her, more HOA members arrived, including the president, Daniel Tran. He looked mortified. Mr. Brooks, I am so sorry. This doesn't reflect who we are. It might if you look at citation patterns, I replied. He looked troubled. Please come to the next board meeting. We need diverse voices. The Corvette was towed, Rick from Elite Rentals arriving with video footage showing Marianne using my card. She was arrested that evening. The next day, videos of the incident flooded social media. The local news picked it up, HOA treasurer arrested for fraud. Daniel visited me that morning with citation records. Residents in my area received triple the violations of Marianne's section. We called an emergency meeting. Marianne is removed. We're auditing the HOA. Good. But it can't end there. We need you on the board, he said. As treasurer, you want me to replace Marianne? Poetic justice. I considered it. I wanted to ensure this never happened again. I'll think about it. Later, Carter called. They searched her computer. She skimmed $30,000 from HOA funds. And she had files rejecting buyers with ethnic names. The DA is adding civil rights charges. The scandal widened. Other board members resigned. The city began investigating housing bias in upscale neighborhoods. At the next HOA meeting, over 100 people attended. Signs read, HOA for all. Mrs. Langston approached me. We started a homeowners advocacy group. Will you join us? Absolutely. 3 months later, as treasurer, I had enacted transparency reforms, opened HOA records online, and created oversight committees. The embezzled funds went to scholarships and a community garden. Marianne's house had sold to Aisha Harper, an environmental engineer. She joined the board. Patricia's story became a citywide lesson. Her discrimination, once hidden under layers of bureaucracy, had been dragged into the light by a stolen Corvette. She'd intended it to be a joyride, but it became a vehicle for justice. Carter texted me one evening, investigation expanded to 6 suburbs. Your case cracked it open. I looked at the Corvette now parked at an auction lot. Rick offered me a chance to buy it. Maybe I will. Not for show. But as a reminder, when you stand up against injustice, sometimes the ride leads to real, lasting change. This time, I'm in the driver's seat.